Hi everyone, welcome to the Fleece prep video for the Tour de Fleece team, Beauty and the Fleece. We are processing Rambouillet fleece from Every Season's farm, and as you can see on my teal table here, I have some unwashed fleece and I have some tools that I am going to show you how to use to help you with the prep process. So in order to help with the scouring process when you're washing a fleece, it's really helpful to open up the tips of the fleece that you're working with if the tips are a little bit on the harder side. Now this fleece was actually covered, so you can see it's actually pretty clean. But when you look at the tips, you will see some dirt there and some VM is trapped in between there. You might not be able to see it from the video, but there's some there. It's present. But you can wash your fleece like this and then process and open up the tips afterwards if you'd like. But I find it to be helpful if you do process it beforehand. It can save you some time with your processing afterward. So you can use different tools to do that. I have a flicker or flick carder that I use, and this one's curved. And as you can see, it actually has like a little bit of dirt in here. I use this strictly for flicking greasy fleeces. And I have a pet brush that I have purchased from a local Dollar Tree. So this is a really inexpensive option. If you don't have a flick carder, you can use something like this and it will also do the job. As you could see, the cloth for this is a little bit smaller, but the width is actually about twice as long almost twice as long as the carding cloth for the flicker brush. So you could use whichever tool you have on hand. So don't worry if you don't have a flick carder. So what you want to do is just go ahead and take some of the locks out from your fleece and just separate them. And you could just put little bundles off to the side like I have here. And then you want to just take a small handful like this. It's not even a handful, maybe a little bit smaller. So I'll show you a small amount here, but you can also do a larger amount, and I'll show you later what that looks like. So you're going to take this, and first I'll show with the flick carder how I do this. So you're going to take the flick carder and put in your other hand or flicker brush. And what you're going to do is you're not going to use the brush and drag across the fleece. You're also not going to turn the brush this way and drag across the fleece. You're not going to flick this way at all. And the reason why you don't want to do that, I've tried that before, and as you can see here along this side, the tines actually pull away. The tines on the edge start to pull away, and it starts to make a bigger gap between the rows. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to have to replace the carder sooner than you need to. So I like to use the flicker brush in the direction of the tines. So you can see here. So what you would do is grab onto the locks, plop up. So in order to do that, you're going to want to twist your fiber and pinch it, because you're going to need a little bit of force to help you and keep you from allowing the fiber to transfer from here to here. So you just want to hold that and do a little bit of what I like to call a popping motion. So again, you're going down, pulling up like that. Again, not dragging this way, down and up. So that opens up those locks, opens up the fleece really nicely. Again, not this way. I like to think of it as moving with the curve of the flick carder. You'll start to see the tips are starting to transfer. And that's all you want. You don't want the fleece to transfer. So I just flip the fleece over. That's in my left hand here. And when I do a twist, I'm gonna hold it. So now this part is exposed, the part I haven't flicked yet. And again, do the same thing. You can adjust it so that the right parts of the fleece is visible up top. So you can see those tips, you can start flicking away. Now you want to be careful that you do not accidentally scrape your hand here. It's very possible. You also don't want to scrape your thumb, and you don't want to scrape your knuckles if you're holding it this way. So you just have to be very, very careful not to do something like that. And as you flick it, you will notice that it starts to poof up. So it's really easy to do. And when I'm processing fleece and taking my time to flick open ends like this, I like to sometimes watch a show or listen to an audiobook. That way the time goes by a little bit faster. This does take a little bit of time. So with some of the more stubborn locks that aren't opening readily, you can put it into the card a little bit. I don't do that often. I just try my best to see if I can open it this way because it's just so much faster. And it can get a little bit tedious trying to do that, trying to open up every single one. And if you need to, you can use your fingers and kind of do that. Okay, so that is just opening the tip end. So when you're washing your fleeces, you can just do that, and that will be very helpful for the process. Another thing you want to look out for is to make sure that you don't have any second cuts. It's basically those pieces of fiber where the fleece was shorn off of the sheep and the shearer went a second time underneath, and those little tiny little bits sometimes get stuck right underneath, and then you have little balls of fleece hanging down here. So you want to make sure you don't have that. It makes no sense to wash those second cuts because they're not usable in your yarn because they're very, very short. So this is what this looks like once you open it up. And I use the flick carder for this, and I open this up. I did the same thing for this pile up here, the exact same thing. But again, I did not flick the bottom. If you decide that you want to flick the bottom, you would do the same thing. And this is what it looks like when the bottom is flicked open. So it's just fluffy and airy at the bottom also. So if you were to flick the bottom after you do your twist and flick open the top, so here you're twisting, I'm gonna flick open the bottom. It's the same motion where you're kind of popping these open. I'm trying to stay really close to the camera here so you can see clear what's happening. So again, this is the tip end. I did this one earlier with the flicker brush. Tip end, cut end. So yeah, that's what that looks like. Makes it so much easier to wash. And this is what the waist looks like afterwards. So you see how there's little tiny little pieces there? This is all from flicking the tips open and the cut end just now. So this is the little waist. And I just take that and put it in its own little pile with other pieces of those tips and cut ends. And you could see, if you look a little bit closer, you could see there's little bits of VM that's also trapped in there. So we take care of that problem where there's tons of VM in the tips, comes right out. So that makes things easier. Now, if you want to do what I just did with the flicker brush with your pet brush, you do is just take some of the same locks. You're doing the same exact thing where you are taking some small amount, twist, pinch, and even though this one isn't curved, you're not going to drag it across. Again, you're going to down and up. So down, up, down, up. So we're going to do the same thing. Just going to do it a little bit faster so you can see that this does the exact same thing. And with this being a little bit wider, I'm actually catching some of those tips that are sticking out on the side. And I could flip this over. So I could do my little twist that I did before. Pinch, twist. Now these tips are exposed. So I did this side, I'm gonna work on this side. And again, you still wanna make sure you're not scraping your fingers. Make sure you're not scraping your knuckles. It's a good idea to make sure you're up to date with your tetanus shot. And if you're wondering why there's a G on this tool, it's because I use this specifically for greasy fleeces. I have one that I use for clean fleeces. So I like to mark my tool to remind me which one is which, because I have the exact same one for flicking open cleaner fleeces. So again, you're just going to up, down, up. Okay. And then if you notice that some in the middle weren't, just do a twist, and then you can just aim for those pieces that were not exposed. Sometimes I turn my hand, but this might not be comfortable for many people. Again, you could just adjust so that it's comfortable for you. So again, you're not dragging, flicking. Okay, so after that, you open it up, check and see. I still have these two little, well, this little small section, it's a little bit stubborn. I'm just gonna pinch here instead of twisting again, and then see if I can open it that way. That'll work, but it's really close to my finger, so be very careful. And I also want to be very gentle so I don't pull the locks out. Don't want to pull the fleece into. Okay, see how that opened up much better? You can tease some of that. Actually comes right off. So here we go. This is what it looks like when you use this. And this is what the waist looks like. You just pull it right out. It's very simple and very easy to do. So look at that. Looks better already. See? Nice. So you could do the same thing. And so the locks, the fleece that's on this side, I used this nice little brush for. And again, you don't have to use expensive tools to process fleece. And I could also do the same thing where I did on this side, where I opened the cut end if I want. It's really up to you what you decide to do. But it does make it easier to wash and for the scour to penetrate through the fibers if you do both ends, but at the minimum I would suggest at least working through the tips so you don't have to worry about washing all of this and the bottom looking clean while the rest is still not clean. This is unwashed. I will also show what it looks like when this is clean, so you can get a side-by-side comparison. But you will have to note that you're going to have some waste from doing this, and either way you would have waste because you don't want those crunchy tips in your finished yarn. So I dropped it but here it is. This is what the waist looks like. And again, if you look close, you'll see there's little black pieces in there, little pieces of VM, and that is what we are taking out as we are opening up those fleeces. Thank you so much for watching.